Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the InnerViews. In today's video, we're going to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of Napoli striker Victor Osihmen to determine whether he would be the perfect signing for Arsenal. So in today's video, first we're going to focus on Osimen's role at Napoli, and then we'll identify his strengths and weaknesses and determine whether he would be a good signing for Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. So when we break it all down, first we'll look at the board, and you can see that Napoli are in a 4-3-3. This is their base attacking shape, and what we see from Napoli is that in that 4-3-3, when you look at the attack, you have Osihmen up front occupying the two center backs. Out in the wider areas, Insigne and Politano are operating as inverted wide players or as inverted strikers, where they do drift into central areas and look to get the ball onto their dominant foot to serve as a legitimate goal threat. You can swap them out for, let's say, Lozano and Elmas, and if you focus solely on that left-hand side, Insigne can operate as a wide player that drifts laterally into a central area, drops deeper ahead of the fullback to pull him out of position, and will look to receive the ball in pockets of space between the gaps of the wide player and the central midfielder to get on the ball, and from there he can serve as a creative outlet to thread balls into Osihmen. So with the wide players drifting into central areas, that creates space for the fullbacks to push forward into advanced positions, and they provide the width for Napoli by delivering crosses into the penalty area that Osihmen will look to get onto. In many cases, that leaves the sole pivot drifting laterally to cover space for the fullbacks, but there are also situations where you do have the shuttlers dropping off into the inside left or the inside right position, and they'll provide cover so that the wide player could tuck in central and that the fullbacks can push forward. In many cases, that leaves Osihmen up front and he's getting service from those fullbacks. You could see him combining with the wide players that are tucking in central, or he can get support from the shuttlers who are making vertical movement in towards the final third and can thread passes in towards him or look to play him into space and behind when he makes runs in between the center backs or into the center back left back gap. In terms of systems, the other common alternative for Napoli is to play in a 4-2-3-1, and in those situations you either see Zielinski playing just in behind Osihmen, and that's to ensure that there is a bit more support around him, but it also allows Napoli to have a midfield three when they need it so they aren't overloaded in those central areas. So in that scenario, they have an additional ball playing option in that central area, but he can also serve as an additional link in the final third or as another option for service for Osihmen in the opposing side's penalty area. If it's not Zielinski, they turn to Mertens when they're chasing a game, and from there he offers another threat by running in behind Osihmen, linking with Osihmen, or simply help occupying the opposing side's center backs to create more 1v1s for the front line, and it gives Napoli an additional attacker in and around the opposing side's penalty area. Therefore, when we focus on how Osihmen impacts the game in the final third, in terms of what Arsenal are looking for, he ticks a lot of the boxes. He offers an all-round threat in the final third, and when you look at his overall game, while he does offer a lot of strengths that can improve this Arsenal side, there are also some weaknesses that need to be improved if he's going to take Arsenal to the next level. First, we'll focus on Osimen's link play, and he could drop off deeper in towards the midfield zone or simply off the center backs, and you're capable of playing the ball in towards his feet, chest, or his head. What we do notice is that when he's able to separate himself from the pressure of the opposing center backs, that's when he's comfortable of linking play with his teammates to get the ball out into the wider areas or look to play them into advanced areas beyond him. However, the issues that he does have is that when defenders stick tight towards him, that's when he often does lose aerial duels in terms of balls being played in towards his head. In this example, you witness a long ball being played into Osihmen with tight pressure, and what ends up happening is that he's unable to control it comfortably and the ball bounces off his chest and into the opposing side's midfielder. In terms of his feet and his chest, yes, there are situations where he's capable of controlling the ball initially, but it's that final link play in terms of spreading the play out towards his teammates, whether it be laterally or in beyond him, that sometimes lacks. In many cases, when he receives the ball in the middle third, he's dropping off center backs and making runs in towards his own half or the halfway circle to receive the ball, and from there, there's enough separation for him to link play with his teammates. If we look to an example, here you see Osihmen dropping off the center back and he creates separation, and that allows him to receive the ball freely with his chest. And he sees Lozano towards his left, and he simply drops the ball in towards his teammate's path. And from there, Lozano could pick out the run of a midfielder from a deeper position, breaking into Milan's half. And from there, that's how Napoli are able to retain possession and progress the play. If we look to another example, it's Osihmen dropping off his center back and creating separation by dragging him in towards his own half. And from here, you could see that he has free markers around him, but what he does well is that space that he creates gives him time to control the ball freely. And here you see that two opposing players instantly swarm him. What Osihmen does well here is he showcases his strength and he's able to hold off the initial pressure, and that's where he locates Fabian Ruiz within close proximity and he lays the ball off to his teammate to help Napoli progress their play.
But there's also the occasion where defenders do get tight on him, and he also shows that he has the strength to brush off their pressure and combine with his teammates.
In this example, you witness Osihmen holding off tight pressure near the halfway line, and he's looking to check into the ball to serve as an outlet for his team. What he does well here is that he holds off that initial pressure, and from there you could see that he's within close proximity of 4 of the opposing side's players, and now he has to get himself out of trouble. He's able to do that as he dribbles away from the initial center back pressure, and he's able to evade himself from those markers that are within close proximity, and now he's looking to switch the route of direction of play, and you can see that he drags out another opposing midfielder towards him. But what Osihmen does well here is that although he does take a bit too much time on the ball, another sliding challenge flies in and he's able to break that challenge, and from there he simply drops the ball off to his teammate to help Napoli retain possession.
Whereas in the final third, you're expecting the opposing defender to apply tighter pressure because they're within close proximity of their penalty area. But in those situations, Osimhen's capable of creating separation from those center backs and still linking play. Although there are situations where he's capable of using his strength, as stated in the middle third, to brush off the opposing defenders to help his teammates retain possession in the final third. Therefore, the successful formula in shutting down Osihmen from linking with his teammates is by not giving him an ample amount of space to receive the ball and sticking within close proximity of his movement, stepping in towards a challenge and forcing him to make an instant decision.
In this example against Milan, you could see that there's tight pressure applied to Osihmen when he drops in towards his own half to control a clearance, and you can see that there's help pressure behind the center back. Osihmen does well to bring down the ball and he turns towards the touchline, but you can see that the initial pressure does track his movement, and as he looks to break in towards that zone, you can see that there's recovery pressure from behind, and there's support pressure if he beats his initial marker. However, the issue that Osihmen encounters there is that he looks to progress play by carrying the ball in towards Milan's half, and that's where he runs into danger and loses possession. If you look to another example, you can see the ball is being played into Osihmen with tight pressure on him when he receives it. And what he's looking to do here is bring the ball onto his stronger right foot, but he's unable to create separation with the initial pressure, and that results in help pressure from behind and ahead of him. What Osihmen does well here is that he drags more markers towards him as he carries the ball to the right, and from there he's looking to backheel the ball into the path of Zielinski, and while the idea was correct, the execution was lacking, and when he looks to roll the ball off into the path of Zielinski, more help pressure from the Milan midfield is applied, and that rollback into Zielinski is cleared for a corner.
So where Osimhen's a reliable all-round threat in terms of linking play and serving as an outlet for his teammates to play into, his main strengths lie out in the channels or when he's able to play facing towards the opposing side's goal. He likes to drop in towards the channels to receive the ball in transition, and he is capable of doing a very good job of bypassing defenders to run down the right channel specifically, but it's in those areas where he often carries the ball in towards the final third, but often makes the wrong decision when he gets to the opposing side's penalty area. It's very rare that you see him making runs towards the left-hand side, and in those situations, because he's so right-footed, he often doesn't pose a threat to the opposing side's goalkeeper. From the left channel, you turn him into a creator, and while he can place his teammates into legitimate goal-scoring positions, his overall threat in the final third significantly decreases.
Here we could see Osihmen looking to make a run in between the center backs into the left channel, and when Deme plays the the ball into the path of the Napoli striker, what we end up seeing as that play develops is that he's able to brush off the defender, although he is positioned on the wrong side. And from there, because he uses his strength well to retain possession, now you could see that Osimen's looking to intend to carry the ball towards goal to get a shot off with his stronger right foot. As he carries the ball towards the penalty area, there you could see him using his left foot to take a touch across the defender that's blocking off the center of the pitch. And from there, although the defender knows that Osimen's carrying the ball onto his right foot, while he makes a challenge, he's unable to break it. But because Osihmen took a touch with his left foot, he has to get the ball back on towards his right, and that enables a bit of help pressure from behind, and that ultimately was enough pressure to throw off his shot as he bent his effort wide of the net. And then in Napoli's game against Barcelona, here you could see Insigne dropping in towards his own half and serving as a creator to locate the movement of Osihmen in between the center backs. Insigne does a very good job of clipping the ball over the center backs, but his delivery plays Osihmen in towards the left channel, and from there, although Araujo is beaten, now Osihmen drags away Piqué. What benefits Napoli here is that Osimen's pace and his willingness to make that run was enough to force Ter Stegen off his line as he attempts to clear the ball, and that results in a clumsy challenge that wins Napoli a penalty.
Osimen's heavy dependence on his right foot is noticed when he makes runs in behind. In terms of Napoli playing direct, there are a few runs that he can make, whether it be in between the center backs or in the gaps between the center backs and the full backs, rather than solely drifting out towards the touchline to receive the ball when it's not a transitional attack. A reoccurring theme in Osimen's game is that when he makes runs in behind towards the left channel, because he's so heavily reliant on that right foot, he struggles to have an impact against the opposing side's goalkeeper.
In this example, we witness a Napoli break down the left channel, and here you could see a ball being played across the center backs for Osihmen making a run between them in towards that zone. As we watch that play develop, you could see that Osimen's pace does allow him to break free in a 1v1, but the issue is that he receives the ball in the left channel. This requires more work from Osihmen as now he has to carry the ball on towards his right foot, but here you could see that he makes a mistake and he drags the ball in towards left half space with his right foot rather than cutting in, and you can see that there's no support. That allows the Barcelona defenders time to make a recovery run in towards that zone, and it forces Osihmen on towards his left foot as now he can't cut in on towards his right, and that results in a tame effort at the keeper for a corner.
Of the footage compiled, the only time that we witnessed Osihmen score a goal from those runs was against Fiorentina, where a long ball was played in towards him, the opposing defender was poorly positioned, and he allowed Osihmen to peel off his shoulder to chest the ball down, and from there even the control wasn't perfect, but Osihmen was able to finish emphatically. With that being said, Osimen's movement in towards the left channel is often beneficial to the opposing side's backline. They'll welcome him towards the byline on his left foot because it does result in a weaker effort on goal. It ultimately allows teams to strategize against his threat much better because they know he's looking to get the ball on towards his right foot, so sometimes they'll invite him towards his stronger foot and then simply close in or hold him off until more help defense is provided, and from there they'll look to close in. In many cases, that's also counterproductive to his favorite movement in between the center backs or in between the center back and the left back to receive the ball in right half space. On several occasions when that ball is played in by his teammates, he'll look to get a first-time effort on goal because the ball is played too wide and he refuses to attempt to cut onto his left weaker foot. What teams often do in these situations, whether it be a long ball over the top or the opposing side simply playing through their defense, they'll allow Osihmen to receive the ball on his right foot in the right channel or in the right half space, but they'll force him into a wider position so it does cut off his shooting angle, and it allows the goalkeeper to simply protect the front post, and it creates a tougher shooting angle for the striker. So where Osihmen will want to get the ball onto his right foot, his shooting angle's cut down because teams are selling out towards the center of the pitch knowing that he won't cut onto his left foot, and they simply just force him wide and reduce his opportunity to beat the goalkeeper.
In a break against Milan, you witness Osihmen making a run between the center backs and the ball being played in between the center back and the left back gap. What the Milan defender does well here is that he tracks Osihmen stride for stride and forces him into a tough first-time low effort wide of the net. And here against Fiorentina, it's the same move with Osihmen making the run in between the center backs and the ball being played in between the left back and the center back gap. And once again, when that pass is played, Osihmen does well to receive the ball from a tight angle, but here the defender tracks him stride for stride and forces him into another tough shot that doesn't beat the keeper.
The last trait to Osimen's game that we'll focus on is his impact in the penalty area. While we do know that he can offer a threat towards towards the front post or from set pieces. In terms of his aerial threat in and around the 6-yard area, we see that when he does back in towards teammates and Napoli do look to play long balls in towards him, if the opposing defender is able to get a leap or stick tight just in behind him, they often win those duels. But in terms of his positioning when Napoli are in the opposing side's third, the significance of their 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 shouldn't be overlooked. The reason being is that in the 4-2-3-1, he has Mertens or Zielinski breaking into the penalty area to occupy the other center back, or simply in the 4-3-3, Insigne and Politano will shift into central areas because it creates space for the fullbacks in those wider areas, and then they could occupy the opposing side defenders or center backs, and he'll leave Osihmen in 1v1s with one of the defenders that he can isolate, peel off their shoulder towards the back post, and then look to use his strength and aerial threat to tower over them to serve as a legitimate goal scoring option.
And if we look to an example, here you see Mario Rui looking to deliver across from the left channel, and you have Elmas and Osihmen occupying two center backs. When that cross is delivered, you can see that Elmas drags his marker towards the 6-yard area, and Osimen's looking to peel off his marker at the back post. Elmas's movement enables Osihmen to use his strength to tower over his marker, and when he makes that leap over his shoulder, he's able to knot a powerful effort beyond the keeper at the front post.
So as you can see, despite some flaws in Victor Osimen's game, the current Napoli striker still possesses attacking traits that would significantly improve Arsenal's productivity in the final third.